Awesome. Appreciate you guys all coming in here today to join us for our journaling workshop. Today we're going to be discussing easy journaling routines. So if you have been using TraderSync before or you haven't, I'm going to break you down kind of a systematic approach that you can take towards learning consistency with using a journal, which hopefully can transpire over to consistency with your own trading. So topics for today, I'm going to show you guys how to easily set up your journal for success so it doesn't become a burden. I'm going to be talking about a trade review process, so a really easy, simple way to follow to ensure that you're grading your trades properly and they're setting themselves up for proper and accurate reporting there. And then we're going to talk about a 5-minute nightly journaling routine. If you're a day trader like myself, you may take 3 to 5 trades on any given day. So I want to be able to show you guys how to condense that into easy 5-minute routine, like I said, that you can get done and fit it into your schedule. Because I know a lot of us, it gets pretty tough to journal at night. We have commitments, whether it's with our family, friends, extracurricular activities, stuff like that. But regardless, we should be able to knot out 5 minutes for a time every single evening, even if it's right before bed, just to get your mind in the right mindset and to ensure that you know exactly what went right or wrong in that previous session there. So appreciate you guys all joining in here. Jacob, John, nice to actually see you here as well too. Quick roll in the chat box here. The chat box is open. Just type number 1 if you have journaled before and type 2 if you haven't. I know some of you guys have been using TraderSync. If you haven't ever before or haven't journaled, please type 2. I'll cater a little bit more to the newer guys in that regards, but looks like we got a few ones. Okay, cool. So we'll move pretty much right into it. I won't dive too much into the intro stuff, but regardless, we'll cover it quickly here so that everyone's on the same page. So why do we journal in the first place, right? So we want to become aware and in sync with how we are trading. Hindsight 2020 only goes so far, and it doesn't prevent bad decisions from happening again. I can attest to this myself. If any of you guys have been in that spot where you maybe just made a foolish mistake, it comes into the evening and you're like, oh, I really don't want to look at that bad trade just because of the fact that, I already know what I did wrong and I don't want to look at it again and open up that wound any further. Well, I always tell people that's like putting a Band-Aid over top of an injury that shouldn't be coated by a Band-Aid and probably stitched up. I always consider going into actually doing your journal more of a surgery rather than a quick fix type of thing. And the fact of the matter is that you're going to get way more actionable insight from those mistakes and those trades that you lost on versus a loser or a winner, sorry. Whenever I've had a tough time or even a good time, I always go through the losers because of the fact that you're going to learn 3 times as much, if not more. At the end of the day, the winners are supposed to be as robotically traded as possible, so there shouldn't necessarily be any mistakes. Not to say you shouldn't be journaling them. And one point even to add on that is with your winners, right, guys? Like, there's going to be times where you have a really, really big trade and you probably didn't follow your trading rules. I've had, honestly, my biggest trade in my life was because I gambled it and I had a ton of revenge trading and I oversized, and I would never do that again. So it's always crucial to even be labeling your mistakes on winning trades. And primarily that would be involving with your entries or your exits. But nonetheless, just understanding where you could have optimized, maybe you should have taken profits off the table, but you got too greedy. Well, what was the stem of that greed? Was it because you have a small account? Was it because you got beat down that day in your trades? If you can dissect that right to the actual problem, and then understand, okay, well, if that problem comes up again in tomorrow's trading session, how do I handle that properly, right? This goes really back into being a lot more actionable on these mistakes versus just saying, yeah, I overtraded that. I got way too oversized. I won't do that tomorrow, right? You have to drill these things in the back and ensure that you're staying on top of it. So it comes down to the whole leaks aspect, right? I'm sure a lot of you guys, if you've had really strong really strong weeks. Yeah, I've had it where you almost feel like you're unstoppable, right? Well, as soon as the market starts to shift, we go between earnings season and a range bound market, or there's just no catalyst kind of turning the market with events. Then we start to see that those leaks that we maybe had when we were really, really profitable, even though we were getting a little bit lazy, they become really evident when the market starts to slow down. So that's another area where, the market starts to slow down, whether it's during the summer months or outside of earnings seasons. Make sure that you're doing a lot more journaling during those times. Not to say you shouldn't when you're doing earnings season, because you're probably trading more, but any of those bad habits, they're going to become really, really evident when the market doesn't have as much of an edge as it used to. I'm sure you guys have seen this before, right? The market's ATR or your average ticker's ATR starts to get shrunken down. And then all it takes is you being that little bit more chasey or a little bit more hesitant or a little bit more impatient on holding it. and those profits can get swapped right out of your account. So just be mindful of that. End of the day, we want this to be efficient, easy, fun, and actionable, right? So you guys have all used TraderSync before, I'd assume. If any of you guys haven't, we have the desktop and the mobile platform. Mobile app is really handy for on the go. And where can we get started? So first off, we have the 7-day free trial. If any of you guys are past that or on a paid plan, you're good to go. Regardless, you can sign up for 7 days, no string attached. That's how I actually started using TraderSync years back. I sat down and I said, all right, I have to go through my last 3 blown up accounts. I have this 7-day free trial. Let me utilize it for the whole weekend and ensure that I can at least go through my 500 plus trades in these accounts to get the full value of, okay, at least what am I doing wrong with my trading? And then on the same token, if I've taken 500 trades, what were the successes of that and how can I build upon that? So that was my whole selling point when I actually joined TraderSync and started to use the platform. Obviously, when you get in, you want to set up your account, create and assign portfolios. I'll talk about this today if you guys haven't done this already. It's really handy if you have, say, a stock account, a futures account, and a crypto account. You don't need 3 journaling accounts. You can just ensure that you're importing them to each specific portfolio there, and you'll be on your way. The upload process, pretty straightforward. Won't spend too much time on that. And the trade review process, some of the most important features to be utilizing within the platform. And then, like I said, that 5-minute journaling routine there. So once it's all your account's up and running, it should only take a few minutes of your evening to do, like I said. Per trade, on average, it's probably taking me about 30 seconds to roughly a minute, depending on how in-depth that trade is, to actually do a review on it. So you can imagine you take 3 to 5 trades, you got your trades imported, you got your trades documented. That takes about 3 to 4 minutes. And then I just run a couple reports on the evening there to ensure that I'm all kind of in hand and up to date. The one key fact, and this is, I've never, ever not had this, and I'm sure you guys can attest this too, the more you journal, the shorter your journaling session will be. So let's say you take a week off or a month off from journaling and you come back, you can only imagine how many trades you have to import, how many trades you have to grade, how many reports you have to run, and you're basically starting from scratch, right? Whereas if you guys can imagine that you're putting the reps every single day for those 5 minutes, it's just like muscle memory. You start to understand, okay, my win rate this last couple of days has been 65%. I go in and log my trades and today it's at 57%. I already know that my win rate's dropped. Maybe I didn't have as great of setups to take. Maybe I forced taking those setups, but it becomes way more quicker for you guys to get responses to questions that you probably have when you're journaling a lot more consistently. So when you're logging your trades, important that we input the setup and the strategy that we're trading, right? So there's 2 inputs that we ever have to do, which makes our journaling really, really super simple. Tag that setup, tag the mistake. Even if it's a winner, tag a mistake if there is one present there. What we want to be tracking with the winners is your efficiency with those setups. So that's one thing that I even like to work on with my own setups. If I'm taking on a new strategy or wanting to learn it, I want to see how efficient I am at taking that setup without having a mistake, because that means I'm being a lot more robotic with it. The trading plans really crystal clear in terms of the entries and the exits. And I know that, sorry, I know that if I'm going to be taking this trade, I have the right thought process when I'm approaching it. The next thing is your technical analysis. So we use TradingView's API. I'm sure you guys are all aware of that. I always like to ensure that you have your charting system set up the same way as you have it on your live trading software. So set up your EMAs, set up your moving averages, set up any types of indicators you like to run, so that if you go and you do miss a week of journaling or a month of journaling, or you just want to go back and look at a trade a year from now, right? You have that context. You can see what the TA was showing you on the chart, and you're, like I said, good to go. And you have all that much more time saving from trying to understand why you took that trade in the first place. The reflection portion, for any of you guys that have been trying to keep it as efficient as possible, you don't necessarily have to be doing this. But if you're one of those historical type of guys that like to look at past trades way down the road, it's good to utilize that text editor. I like to say, just put your entry comments, your exit comments, your trade management comments, perhaps. And then likewise, you have that context. You can look at that trade 5 or 10 years from now and know exactly what went down on that. So what does this do? It's going to start to categorize and track your strategies, right? The big thing I'm going to tell you guys is keep your tagging as simple as possible. So don't have duplicates, right? If you have a flag set up, don't call this one a downward flag or a flat flag or a triple top flag. They're all the same thing, right? Unless you are that particular of a person where you're looking at these really, really micro setups, then go ahead and do that. But just note that the more trades you take, the more accurate the reporting is going to be. So at the start, you're maybe going to want to have maybe 2 or 3 tags. Most traders may have a couple trades in their arsenal or setups in their arsenal. Start to utilize those and tag them and make it a goal to get your first 50 or your first 100 logged, because as statistics show, the more trades you take and the more trades that are logged into those strategies, the more accurate those reporting will be. If you take your first 3 trades, your first 3 logs, your reports will be there, but is that the general statistic analysis of what your trading is? We don't really know. So the more reps, the more imports you do, the more trades you do, the smarter your journal is going to get. And it's going to come where it's just as aware to real time as where you are as a trader currently there. So we're going to get the heavy lifting done with the reporting and the journaling side of things, the software, and then simplicity and organization, keeping your portfolios clean, keeping your trades clean, keeping your tagging clean. If we get to the point where you have hundreds and thousands of trades in your account, it's going to make your life a lot easier to navigate the platform and to just get your answers right off the hop. So the 5-minute routine, I upload my trades, input my setups and mistakes, and then I set up an overview report for the last 5 days, the last 20 days, and then the last year. And this kind of gives me my short-term, medium-term, and long-term trend. If you guys can imagine, your moving average on a stock, you have a short term, which may be your 9 SMA, you have or 20 SMA, you have your intermediate, which is typically a 50, and your long term, which may be like a 200, right? So similar with that, with your journal, you're going to want to look at and see how you've been performing the last week, the last month, and the last year. And then take a mark of that. Maybe you want to be tracking the win ratio, your average trade return, your profit versus loss ratio, and maybe your average winner to average loser. Those are the main ones that I like to look at. And then I want to just see if those ratios have been going up in value or down in value, and why that may be. So that really keeps you in queue, because like I said, a lot of times there's going to be market shifts. There's going to be certain things going on in the market, and the sentiment of it's going to change. And if you're not quick to adapt to that, but you're still journaling frequently and consistently, those reports will come up within that week, and you can make those changes. Whereas if you're a guy like myself in my earlier years, you might have just pushed journaling off to the side and the market's kind of got a little bit haywire, and you say, you know what, I'll just try to approach the market tomorrow with a fresh set of eyes and make sure that I hit it right. That could easily transpire over to 2-3 weeks of bad habits, like I said. And if any of you guys have a small account, it's detrimental to your accounts if you're making these avoidable trades that, like I said, if you're just intact with your own your plan and your system and the journal, you can nip those in the back before they turn into 2, 3, 4 week things that are affecting your account there. So simplicity, flexibility, and the powerful aspect of it is why we're using TraderSync. I'm going to jump into the platform now and showcase to you guys how to get your account set up. So first things first, when you guys are logged in, this is the dashboard, what you kind of see when you first pop in here. If you're on the trial, you most likely will have some dummy trade data in here just to showcase to you, what it's supposed to look like once it's done and you're actually logging your trades. You can simply just come into here and then click delete trades and you're good to go. So otherwise than that, once you get into the account, the first thing what we're going to want to do is set up our portfolio. So I'll come into the portfolio section here. And this is where I was mentioning to you guys that, right, you don't need to have multiple journal accounts. You just need one TraderSync account. I can quickly come in here into my portfolio. Let's say this one's with E-Trade and it's a day trading account. I'll add that there. Now my portfolio has been added. And whenever I go to import a trade from E-Trade broker, I can just associate it to that portfolio and that will be connected under that particular account. So for instance, I'll come into here now. I'll put E-Trade in. For all of our import methods with particular brokers, we'll have most likely a video tutorial as well as a written documentation below here on how to import it. It sometimes seems like a lot, but trust me, it takes a matter of 5 to 10 seconds to get the import done. Most logistically, what you guys need to do is log into your broker account, go to your trades history tab, export into a CSV file based on the date range that you want, and then import that file into here. So you're basically going to your broker, exporting the one file, and then clicking upload file to this account on TraderSync, and then you're good to go. So once that's all done, you're going to want to click import trades, and then your entire importing of your trade logs will be good to go. So the next thing what you're going to want to do is come into the trades column. And this is basically where all of your trades have been logged, right? So if you guys are further down the road and you want to start just focusing on one particular account, maybe it's your swing account, maybe it's a Forex account, whatever it may be, this is where you can easily just decipher between thousands of trades into one particular brokerage that you're actually wanting to do an analysis on. So next, once we have our trades imported, we're going to want to review each particular trade. So I'll jump into one of these trades here and we'll just do this quickly with you guys so you can kind of get a feel of the process and how I would go about it, and what you kind of want to be looking at. So we have the high level data, right? I don't spend too much looking at this. One value I really like to look at is the return value per size, because this is your actual dollar per share that you're getting on a return. I personally like this as a day trader because I want to know per trade that I'm taking how much a dollar value am I getting out of that range. And then I like to compare that to the ATR of that particular stock. So I know if I'm getting a good return on that trade, if the stock moved 15 or 20 bucks in the ATR on that given day, then I want to maybe try to be getting like $3 to $4 out of that, right? I kind of have my own ratio and what I like to get out of a stock. And in the same token, if it's got a smaller ATR, I'm probably going to be looking for maybe, if it's a 3 to 5 ATR type of a stock, I might be looking for 50 cents to 75 cents on this. It depends on the type of stock, if it's a mid cap, low cap, or small cap or large cap. But nonetheless, it's a good value to be tracking. I like to do this on my reports overview there as well. Then we have our history below here for the executions, and we have our targets and stop losses. I primarily don't use the targets or stop losses, but for visual contextuality, I think it's really, really imperative at least to be placing your targets, because it's pretty evident to see where your stop would be when you're looking at the chart. But the targets are always kind of nice to see, okay, if you're a trader that's trying to get a 2-to-1 risk to reward or a 3-to-1 risk to reward, just plot those levels so you can kind of get an idea when you come down the chart, was I hitting that? Was I above it or below it? And that can kind of help you gauge better on diagnosing your exit analysis to see if you could have done better on managing that trade there. Just below, so this is the actual inputs. So, all this stuff I would pretty much just breeze through, quickly check the return over size, and I jump right into the setup. So this is a triple tap breakout with a VWAP breakout as well. So as you can see here on this chart, the stock popped up in the morning, kind of formed a range in the opening hour, pulled back below the VWAP, and then busted above. And this is the type of trade that I like to take. It's called a VWAP breakout. It's kind of got an opening range breakout as well and a flag built into it. So there's a couple different theses all showcasing a bullish movement. So on this trade, for instance, I wrote down that this was the setup. I did have a mistake, however, that I sold it too late. If we come down to the running P&L here near the bottom, it was up nearly $1,600 at one point, and it came back basically 30% from that mark. So, even though it was a great trade, like I said, these are trades that are building your account. There's still areas to improve upon. So I just made a mark of that so that if I am ever doing a report on a triple tap breakout or a VWAP breakout, I am documenting that I did have this mistake. So I can, like I said, track the efficiency of this setup in the future there. We do have the custom tag feature. The custom tag feature is kind of nice. You can come into, I'll do this later so I don't lose this page, but you can come into the configuration tab here to set up your custom tags. So for instance, I built ones from speaking with a lot of trading influencers or coaches, prop firms, and just authorities in our space. Been starting to build a couple of these out, and they've been kind of helpful. Like I've built one for emotions. So aside from mistakes, maybe I just want to track my own emotions as a tag so I can do reports on it. Like I said, you don't want to get too granular because mistakes and emotions kind of play hand in hand. So something to put for food for thought. Targets are kind of nice, so I can start to do a report. Maybe I have different target levels, like one target level is a 2-to-1 ratio, one target level is a 3-to-1 ratio, one target level is a 4-to-1 risk to reward ratio. I can plot those down and then say whether I hit T1, T2, or T3 type of thing, right? So I can start to say and do a report on maybe triple tap breakouts while hitting T1 or T2 or T3. What is my report saying? So this is where you can get a lot more powerful reports, even just from your normal win ratio or what your account's saying. You can actually, like I said, start to say, okay, with this setup while hitting this profit target, how am I actually performing as a trader? So it gets pretty powerful in that aspect. Other ones like perfect entry, yes, I would never say there is a perfect entry, but these are just kind of ways that you can get a little bit more creative in creating your own custom tags to do reporting upon there. So once that's all done, I'll come into the trades again. Just going to mark all these guys off. Yeah, cool. So once these are all done, what I would do then is come into the reports column here. So once you have your strategies tagged at the top, then you're actually going to see how they're all performing. So below here, I'm sure you guys have seen this platform or the reports overview page before. It's kind of high level data. We have about 50 data plots, sorry, here that you can utilize. So everything from your hold time, which I like to use as a day trader to understand what my average hold time is on winners versus losers. What I've always found is that when my losing trades, that I always don't hold them long enough. I'm a really impatient trader, and that's one thing I've had to work on over the years. So just being notice of that and saying that, if I'm in a trade and I get right out, typically those are losers because it's not a good setup. I chased it. I got in too late, whatever it may be, but that's always been the indicator on my losing trades. I'm always out in the first 5 minutes. Now, yours may be different. Yours may be that you're holding it too long. So this is always a good report to just get a gauge of, okay, when I am taking losses, is it because I'm holding it too long or am I selling it too early? And both of those are an easy dissection for you to say, okay, now how can I actually go about fixing that problem there? Return percentages are also kind of nice too, on winners versus losers. I like to look at the return dollar value so that I actually know on per average of a winning trade or a losing trade, what am I doing? So I've always been trying to, risk anywhere from 50 to 75 bucks on these particular setups and make anywhere from 200 to 400 bucks on them. So my ratios, even though they aren't at 400 to 50, they're still in that same relative ratio, cut in half there. So that's fine. I can improve upon it. But nonetheless, it's a profitable and it's a good ratio there. Profit and loss, same thing. That's a good one to be looking at. But the nice thing about this is once it's all done, what I'm going to want to do is come through each one of these trades and start to get a gauge of it. So let's say this is the last 7 days or the last 30 days that you're going to want to do a report on. I'll quickly just pull up all these trades, pan through them all. The nice thing when you click into one of these, when they're all filtered, is you can just navigate the left and right arrows and it'll pull up the next trade here. So we're on FNKO. I can click next, pops up Futu, and I'm ready to go. So I can, quickly pan through these trades in a matter of 10 to 15 seconds per one there. So we got our trades imported, we got our trades diagnosed or trades logged. The next thing we're going to want to do is come and run a couple reports that I like to run on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. So we'll have all of our setups here. What I like to do, same thing, like I said, is run the last 7 days, 30 days, and the last 12 months, and then run through all of these values. So I want to start to understand, if my win rate's been dropping in particular setups, why has that been? If the average return value has been coming down, why has that been, right? Is it because of my entries? Is it because of my exits? Is it because of the actual setups that I'm looking at trading? Defining those 3 items and then going into saying, okay, if it's the type of setup that I'm trading or the type of stocks that I'm looking at trade with this setup, what is my scanning criteria, right? What am I actually going to look at in the pre-market or the post-market to find better setups or stocks rather that fit this type of setup? And then, yeah, same thing, looking at the average profit versus average loser there. Same thing to look at the risk to reward, what you're typically trading over on a winner versus a loser. Once this is all done, like I said, if you're doing this on a nightly basis, you'll pretty quickly understand what your daily or your weekly or monthly averages are and how that's comparing to your overall account there. On the flip side, I'll come into the mistakes report. And I'll just mark these all off so I know everything on the account. So now same thing, what I'll come on the mistakes end is I'll filter it by the last 7 days, 30 days, and the last 12 months, and then review these. So the big thing on these ones, what I'm looking for is the largest return of losses. So I can see on this, chasing has always been a really, really imperative mistake that's been on my account at least, and wash trades. So this comes hand in hand with that hold time report that I was telling you guys, right? Me saying that whenever I'm chasing trades, I'm getting them out of them really quick within 5 minutes because I've realized that. Well, both of these are accounting to that, and it provides me with the confidence and knowing that that's the reason for that. Same thing with no setup and 1 minute chop, right? Like all 4 of these types of mistakes can be categorized into that whole time report and understanding why those losers are coming in so quick. So the nice thing about this is just knowing that, okay, if these are mistakes that I'm making, I can easily set up our trading rule around these. So even for my own instance, I'll run through these top 4 mistakes and how I went about, trying to fix them or nip them in the butt. So first off, 1 minute chop. I was a day trader, right? So I typically would have a 1 minute, 3 minute, and a 5 minute chart up. But primarily what would happen is the 1 minute chart would look so nice because it's moving so fast and it's so actionable that I would take a lot of my 5 minute setups off the 1 minute chart. So quick, easy fix. I still have the 1 minute chart when I trade, but I have to have the confirmation on the 5 before I take it. So that even has helped my own trading and getting double confirmations that I know if the 1 minute, the 3 minute, and the 5 minute all align. and there's no kind of weird candles forming on the 5 or the 1 that would throw it off, then I know that most of the intraday patterns are looking the same in terms of the candle charts there. So that was one quick rule. I only take trade entries off of the 5 minute. I can still use the 1 minute, but it's only for secondary confirmation. No setup. So when I was earlier trader, this was a big issue. You know, I'd be in a chat room, I'd be in Twitter with people, whatever it may be, but I just maybe not have the watch list for the day. Or maybe, like I said, I just got a little bit too frustrated and I take someone else's trade. Well, so Joe Blow has their own trading system with their own risk management profile and their own way of managing that trade. It's impossible for you to do the exact same thing. I don't care if people have trade alerts or what they do. In terms of you managing it from that point forward, it's going to be, I always call it like being at the casino, just because of the fact that I've never seen a copy trader do well. And even to myself in my earlier years when I used to do that, unfortunately, it's never a long-term solution. If any of you guys are here to trade and treat this like a career or profession, you have to take it into your own accountability and just know that you have to own your own trades. So nonetheless, I rebuilt my trading plan. I made a trading rule. I have to have my pre-trade criteria or my checklist done before I take a trade. So I have about 10 trading rules that I have, everything from the daily chart to what the volume is to what the news is on the stock. And if it passes all of those checklists, then I'm able to look at it to take a trade. So I have a really confined watch list. You know, I used to have maybe 30 to 20 tickers on any given day. Now I maybe only have 5 to 10. And if none of them hits or none of them shows a trading opportunity, I don't take it. I want to make sure that I'm taking trades with edge. So that's an easy way to prevent that mistake. Watch trades. I take this as a mistake. You guys can do this as well. Sometimes we're in trades, right, where, I mean, it's just doesn't go anywhere, or, you know, market gets stuffed. There's sometimes just instances where I just call it a wash. For me, for instance, it's anything between minus 30 to plus $30. I typically will just label that as a wash trade because I don't want it to impact what my trading statistics are telling me on the setups or the mistakes end. I don't want those to accumulate and say that, okay, this is a problem I need to fix. No, I mean, they're basically breakout even over, I mean, the course of 200 trades here, I've lost $1,700. So I'm not going to worry about nipping that in the back because per trade, I'm only really losing $8. So that's fine. Chasing, however, chasing is an easy one to fix too, right? So we all have entry requirements for our trades. Sometimes they move a little bit too fast and we miss those entries, right? So I was always the guy that if I missed that trade at the open, I wanted to get right in on the next candle or the next second, and I'd be losing my risk to reward ratio. I'd be losing my win-loss ratio, and I'd just be killing my edge right off the hop. So instead, what I did was I started to make entry rules. So if I missed these entry rules, that's all good, because what I ended up doing was building a secondary setup. So I had an opening setup, which was primarily for opening range breakouts, red to green moves or green to red moves, anything at the open that had volume and volatility. I had those as my primary trades. Now, if I missed any of them, that's okay. I made sure that I didn't chase it, because what I did was I had a secondary trading setup, which was a pullback, which primarily any of those trades or those types of moves that happen to open, they overtrace, right? It's a matter of them bouncing off the retracement or them just coming back to where they started off at the day. So my retracement setup was a nice way for me to say, okay, if I have a problem with chasing these trades, that's fine. I'll wait for the secondary opportunity. I won't be able to be as risky on it just because of the fact that the second move typically doesn't move as much as the first, but nonetheless, I can still ensure that I have a trading opportunity. I don't have to rush into this trade. I can wait for a better placement along the support level to ensure that I, can support my win-loss ratio and support my profit-loss ratio in this trade. So make sense, guys? I'm gonna make sure everyone's all good. You can type in the chat box if you need me to stop on anything, but nonetheless, once we're getting into this, setups report, mistakes report, and then what I like to do after that is I'll come into the setups, and I might do this once a week. I'll take one that's probably got one of the most trades in it. We'll take the ORB one. So we'll take this ORB one, and next what I'm going to do is say, okay, if this is a strategy that's been working really, really well on my account, what I'm going to start to do is look at where it's been performing the best. So I'm going to look at, running through each of these reports and just starting to see where stuff has been accumulating. So whole time, this report isn't going to get too much data just because of the fact that it's only opening trade. It only happens in the first hour of the open. So we're not going to really utilize this one. If you guys have a setup that maybe can be utilized throughout the entire market hours, or maybe you're in Forex and you have a 24-hour market cycle, this may be helpful for you in those regards, right? So next I'll move over to the next will be weekdays. So days of the week, which are most profitable. So pretty relatively flat. I mean, I wouldn't say that I would avoid any days. I primarily know that Mondays and Fridays I'm at worst, but I don't see any problem in looking at this to say I need to change anything, right? Months of the year, same thing. Don't really need to be too focused on that until you have a ton of trades logged in it. But entry price is one I really like to use. So entry price can kind of give you guys a gauge on whether you're better at small caps, mid caps, or large caps, and trying to understand, what's the best types of caps for you to be trading there. So I like to be trading mid to large caps. Don't typically fool around with any small caps, but nonetheless, it's good to be mindful of this because you may know that a lot of people get sucked into trading small caps, but the fact of the matter is you want to be looking at the ranges and the percentage ranges that these stocks are giving on a given day, right? Even if it's NVIDIA, if it's moving on a higher percentage than a stock that's $15, you're going to want to be in NVIDIA. So this is pretty eye-opening for me because I was always a guy earlier in my years where I just wanted to get as many shares as possible in a ticker so I could, put down 500 shares or 5,000 shares and make my 20-30 cents. But what I started to figure out was it was a lot harder for me with small caps to try to get that meat of the pie, right? If a small cap's going to move $2 to $3 on a given day, it was really tough for me to even get 50 cents to $1 out of those trades, just because of the range and how that was forming. So what I actually found out was me taking 50 to 200 shares on a mid to large cap, I could get the ranges a lot more cleaner. And I could also ensure that I wasn't risking too much on a stock that could potentially go on like a short spike. But nonetheless, I just felt like that was a lot more of an easier trade and style of trading that I could use. Also, mid cap, large caps, they don't move as fast as small caps when they get really crazy, depending on the float, right? But the types of stocks that I like to trade, they're a lot more of your blue chip type of guys that, I just find it's easier for me to read them in that sense there. Volume's kind of handy. Like I said, like for instance, this type of setup in this account, typically anywhere from 100 to 500 shares. So you can kind of see if you're a guy like me in my earlier years that was maybe oversized, this might be in the red, right? So make a note of that. Maybe if you're trading too big of market caps like Tesla and stuff like that, and you have a really, really small account, you can only get like 10, 20, 30 shares in it. And maybe that's the one that's really negative, right? So maybe making mindful note of that and saying, maybe I should go down and trading mid caps to see how that feels, just in managing that size. The next I like to look at is sector. Sector's kind of handy. If any guys are type of catalyst types of traders that trade particular sectors that are moving, might be handy for you to go and say, okay, I'm going to look at the setup that I've been trading as of late and just start to see, which sector's been performing the best. So finance and insurance, manufacturing, information. So if this is, a type of theme that's been going on in the market, I may expand upon that and start to do more scans in these sectors to see if there's more trading opportunities like sympathy plays that could benefit from me utilizing this setup there. Change percentage is kind of handy too, more so on the volatility side of things. I mean, I'm not primarily trading stocks that are moving more than 10%, so I'm never going to see probably these ratios on this side. But if you are a small cap guy, penny stock trader, anything of that nature, probably pretty helpful to be looking at how this report coincides with how you're handling, managing those trades there too. Hold time, whoops, once this loads. Same thing. So maybe you want to look at wins versus losses when you're actually being more efficient in it. So I can tell that, okay, when I'm holding it for longer than 6 minutes, I nearly have no losses on this setup compared to within the first 5 minutes, which is primarily when I'm losing trades, is when I am accounting for those. Still profitable, but nonetheless, I need to be more focused on fixing that there. Other than that, guys, we have the sides. So this is only a long setup, so I won't show you that. But if you have a setup that's universal for long or short, you can obviously do a report on that. Spreads if you're trading options, and then some more advanced ones if you guys want to be looking at these. But I won't get too much into these since this is primarily a beginner's journaling workshop. We'll save these for another workshop in the future there. One helpful thing I'm just going to make a mindful note of for you guys too is you guys can come into here and actually come in and make your own journal notes. So one thing I've been kind of utilizing, I'll just showcase you actually even where was this last one? Oh, I might have deleted it. But let's say you guys want to be, having a journaling routine that you're doing this. Yeah, Jason or Jacob, I know, right? I got sucked into that game a long time ago, but happy I'm out of that. But like I was talking about, so sometimes what I've been utilizing this for too is just creating a journal note, even if you didn't take a trade, right? So maybe it's a Sunday night, you're getting ready for the market week. You can still come in and utilize the journaling page to build that, right? So what I like to do is I'll come in here and say Sunday's watch list. And then basically I'll put in like what's going on in the Qs, the T2108, which is what my charting software has for kind of a market breadth. And then maybe I'll look at a couple of sector indices. And then after that, I'll be good to go. I'll make my remarks on that. And then what I also do is put my longs and my shorts down. So this is where I like to just kind of build my nightly watch list. I can come back into TraderSync the next morning, quickly look at it, or copy and paste this into a text editor, whatever it is. But I can at least have some documentation as to what I'm looking at for the coming week. So I can plot this, click Save Changes. It'll plot this. There we go. This text edit or this journal entry, and now I can reflect on this. So for instance, like this was one I did back in November, right? I do a remark on the Qs, the TT108, what my watch list is, what I'm looking at for longs versus shorts. And then once I go and import my trades, I can quickly come and check this again to see like if I follow my plan, right? So just one nice way to keep everything in one system. I used to use Evernote and even Apple Notes. I've converted it all over to TraderSync, and it's a lot more easier just to keep things on tabs there. Yeah, that's a good one, Jacob, too. I don't trade on FOMC days. I've had the worst win ratio on FOMC days. So that's even one thing that I've made a note of on my account. But everyone's got their own intuitions, right? It depends on when your setups are, what time frames you're taking them at. But it's always good to be mindful of certain days that just you don't have an edge. It is what it is. Other than that, guys, we'll open this up to some questions. I'm going to pop this back up for any of you guys that don't have TraderSync. You guys, like I said, can utilize the free trial here. I will post the link here for you guys. So if you do want to sign up for the free trial, go ahead and utilize that link. No credit card. Like I said, what I used to do when I started using TraderSync was I signed up for the trial, went through all my accounts on that weekend, did all my reporting. And at that point, I was like, well, I already have my data in here. Why don't I just continue to use it, right? If I'm going to lose $50 on my next trade or $100 on my next trade, I'd rather be able to go in and use a journal that I could put that next loss into and have it for the next year, and have like a kind of an accountability manager, a financial manager looking at my account, and me being able to go in and know what those numbers are saying. So if you guys want to do the trial and you are happy with it, there's a 50% off discount on the annual plans to save you guys some money there if you want to commit to using a software for the year. But nonetheless, we'll open this up to some questions here. If you guys do have any you want me to talk about on the software or even just journaling, and we will finish this up here. So yeah, last Friday was pretty ugly there too. I always found with Mondays and Fridays, I just was either, well, Mondays, for instance, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm always thinking about the market. So it's like, okay, Monday, I get really, really aggressive, or I just get a little bit too impatient. So that's just one thing I've always had to work on. Just Mondays, keep it cool. Don't get too hot out of the gate and ruin your entire week off your first trade, right? And then same thing with Fridays. If you ever have a slow week or just a bad week, Fridays, I'd always be like, okay, well, I don't want to end this week off in the red. I want to make sure I get in the green. Well, if you're pushing the buttons on a Friday when there's low volatility, you're probably going to overtrade, lose to a lot of commissions if you're not on free commissions, and just completely obliterate your journal there. It's been a lot of times where I've taken like 15 trades on a Friday, and the last thing I want to do on the weekend is go and journal them. But nonetheless, those were mistakes I've had to learn from. So awesome. Okay, well, appreciate you guys joining in here today. We'll be doing another webinar here later on in this month. So stay tuned, check out our Twitter and our socials for alerts on when that will be. But nonetheless, I appreciate you guys all coming in here this evening. If we don't see you before Christmas, Merry Christmas. But yeah, wish you guys all the best in your trading, and we hope to see you guys soon there. Jacob, which brokers can you log into the system to upload your trades? Are you talking about the auto like synchronization, or are you just talking about connection wise, like importing? Because I know we have here. Yeah, so I'll put this in here too as well. You can check out that page. This lists whether we have auto sync or not, and which instruments they're connected with. So I know we do have, Webull. So Webull, we have stocks, options, futures, just no auto sync. And Thinkorswim, we have stocks, options, futures, and Forex there. Yeah. And we're always adding ones. Like if there's ones that you, for whatever reason, came across that we don't have, it's really easy for us to actually do an integration with there. So Jacob, if there is a broker in the future that you come across that we don't have, by all means, reach out to our support and we can get that integration done. But as you can see from the list, I mean, we have quite literally a few hundred brokers that you can connect with there. No problem. Okay, well, appreciate you guys. Thanks for spending your time with us here. Have a great rest of your evening. Have a great rest of your week trading there. And I wish you guys a great weekend to come. Yeah, take care.